I'm Ryan Yamamoto. This is The Minute. We are entering the Golden State Valkyries era. The Bay Area's new WNBA team is preparing for their first ever preseason opener tonight. They will take on the Los Angeles Sparks at Chase Center. Tip-off is at 7. You can watch it exclusively on Pix Plus. We're learning that two planes bumped into each other at SFO. It happened last night when United says two 777s clipped their wings while one was pushing back from the gate. Both flights were canceled. No one was hurt. United says it's booking passengers on other flights. San Bruno BART station is back open after being briefly closed this morning. We saw lots of police around 6 o'clock this morning. It's unclear exactly what happened. BART just described it as a major medical emergency. There are residual delays, but normal red line service has resumed. I'm Ryan Yamamoto, and this is The Minute.
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
President Trump's crackdown on immigration sparking fear in Napa Valley's vineyards.
They don't want to drive. The kids aren't wanting to go to school.
How a donation worth millions is helping to protect immigrant workers in wine country. Plus, detecting strokes early with the help of artificial intelligence. We'll introduce you to a UC Berkeley student who will help pave the way for this potentially life-saving technology.
It occurred to us, we could use our skills as programmers to actually solve that problem.
And we'll meet a Bay Area tattoo artist keeping an ancient tradition alive.
I get a lot of joy in just tattooing kunioshi prints on people. I think they're made to fit the body perfectly.
Well, thanks for joining us. I'm Ryan Yamamoto. Let's start with our first alert. Weather meteorologist Jessica Birch is tracking a bit of a cool down and then, yet another warm up.
Well, we have a lot cooler weather in the forecast for us today. We're back into the 60s in areas like San Francisco compared to yesterday's beautiful sunny skies and upper 70s. Speaking of upper 70s, that's the case over in Fremont. We have 80s off into the East Bay today, 60s along the coast, so a 20-degree spread this afternoon, just from all of our microclimates alone. I'm going to drop the map real fast and I want to show you a couple of things. We're actually going to start seeing a lot lighter winds. We had that this morning at least, but it is going to get gustier into the afternoon hours in some spots of the bay. For example, San Francisco getting up to around 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts just into the 3 o'clock hour. Another thing to mention, it's a mostly sunny day for all of our inland areas, but by tomorrow morning, those clouds that are still holding on tight to our coastline, they're going to start filling the bay with some mistier conditions as we head out the door tomorrow morning. We could potentially see that just along our shoreline, but it is still mostly a dry day nonetheless, and it will be dry as we head into the rest of this week. The next chance of showers, it's not until next Monday, and as we head into next Monday, temperatures will dip just a little bit more, and I want to show you that right now. We start off in our inland areas holding on tight to 70s and 80s back and forth with each other. We dip down to the 60s as we head into next week once that rain starts to roll in from offshore. Now at the same time, we head all the way over into the bay, places closer to San Francisco, Oakland, just across the Bay Bridge. Today we're seeing 70s and 60s back and forth, and that's pretty much the case all week long too. With partly cloudy skies for most this week, it'll be a great way to kick off the weekend by Friday, heading into sunnier conditions too. And then once we head into next week, when those showers start to roll in from offshore, that's when we'll dip down into the low 60s and potentially even some upper 50s along the coastline as well. We'll keep you updated on that forecast. For now, back to you.
Women's basketball history will be made tonight as the Golden State Valkyries take the floor for the first preseason opener ever. Chase Center has been covered in Valkyrie violet ahead of the inaugural game. Both the players and head coach Natalie Nakase say they are ready for their debut.
As a staff, we've been working our butt off. Again, I'm texting these guys at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And so just kind of appreciating all of the hard work that we've already put in, and then preparing them obviously for LA, and then just having fun with it. Preseason is just a game for the fans, and then everyone to see them for the first time. This is history too.
It's finally here. Yeah, I'm so excited. We've been working hard. We've been beating up on each other, so it'll be nice to beat up on someone else.
Veronica Macias is at Chase Center, where crews are getting ready for the team's debut right here in the Bay Area.
The moment is finally here for the Golden State Valkyries, here for their first preseason game at Chase Center, happening against the LA Sparks at 7 p.m. We know Thrive City here is going to be filled with violet and purple. There's been so much anticipation and excitement for months into this team, carefully assembling a roster, and tonight, finally, we get some insight into their style of basketball. 7 players have 3 or more years in the league, but never have played a WNBA game. This team also making a milestone here with their tickets sold, surpassing 15 season deposits. And also the coach saying tonight, it's not actually about playing fast, it's about playing at our pace, she says. Tonight, it's not just a first for the players, but also for the TV broadcasters that are going to be on call. Jacob Toby and Morgan Reagan, they're going to be on call tonight. As for Reagan, a Sacramento native, this job really a dream come true.
Basketball's in my blood, and so I wanted to make sure that I was still talking about it, and not just talking about it from the standpoint of being like, this is what this person should have done, or this is what this person should have done. It's about talking about the joy of the game, and that will just never go away from me, and that's what I'm mostly excited to talk about.
As for the players, they say they've already formed a good bond and an identity, wanting to be known as gritty and relentless, and also honoring the Valkyrie name.
Thank you, Veronica. And fans, you're going to love Morgan Reagan, Momo, as we know her as. And you can watch the Valkyries and the Sparks tonight on Pix Plus. We also have live pregame and postgame analysis starting at 6:30. Tip-off is at 7 p.m. Well, a burglary at a popular LGBTQ nightclub in the heart of downtown Oakland caught on camera. Take a look at this. The owners of Q Rico nightclub gave us the security video from last Tuesday. You can see 2 masked thieves captured on camera stealing a cart full of stuff after breaking into a storage room. A Ring camera clearly captured their faces, $5,000 worth of damage plus thousands more in stolen booze. This marks the 11th time thieves have targeted the club in recent years. The owner tells us insurance will not cover the losses.
No. As a small business, you can't really turn into insurance because they're going to drop you, and the sad part is we actually got dropped last month regardless of having any claims.
Valentino also says over the past 4 years, they've lost an estimated $100,000 in damage and product replacement due to break-ins. To help make up for some of the losses, Q Rico will host a fundraiser tonight selling $1 tacos. President Trump's crackdown on immigration has sparked a lot of fear among immigrant communities. Most recently, his administration announced they would pay $1,000 to anyone who leaves the U.S. and returns to their home country voluntarily.
Where we're going to pay each one a certain amount of money, and we're going to get them a beautiful flight back to where they came from, and they have a period of time. And if they make it, we're going to work with them so that maybe someday, with a little work, they can come back in if they're good people.
Well, the administration says participants would first have to sign up through the U.S. Custom and Border Patrol app. The government says it has tracked thousands of self-deportations so far. Now, for those who work at Napa Valley's Vineyards, a local nonprofit is celebrating a donation that will help expand its immigrant center. Suji Nam has more on how it will help protect those who live in the shadows.
When Miriam Puentes walks through the parallel rows of grapevines, she sees a dream, her father's dream.
We are immigrants from Guanajuato, Mexico. We moved here in the 80s.
She remembers her childhood helping her family who were farmers.
I remember that supervisors would call that ICE was around, so everybody would run to hide. So I lived that.
Fuentes sees that same fear in the vineyards and homes of immigrant workers in wine country.
They don't want to drive. The kids aren't wanting to go to school because they're scared that they won't see their parents again.
Immigrants make up 73% of Napa County's agricultural industry, according to a 2012 report by the Migration Policy Institute. The report also says about 1/3 of those immigrants are undocumented.
Buenos días, Puertas Abiertas.
Puertas Abiertas Community Resource Center in Napa is getting a big boost to help the community.
Our responsibility is educating our community to know that they have rights. Whatever their immigration status is, they have rights.
Esmeralda Gill, the nonprofit's interim head, says they've recently received a major donation. A new building valued at over $3 million. The new site is in a more visible location and more accessible by public transportation.
Be the space where we're able to hold cultural classes and and our workshops, like we have labor rights workshops.
She adds they've recently been handing out more pamphlets and Know Your Rights cards to educate the community.
Here at Puertas Abiertas, we're all kids of immigrants or immigrants ourselves, and we've lived a lot of these experiences, which is what makes our center very important.
Fuentes knows a little help can go a long way. She saw it firsthand with her father.
It was an opportunity that his boss gave him. He told him, Honorio, if you learn to speak English, I have a job for you in the production room. So that was motivation enough for my father.
Fuentes took that motivation and built Onrama Cellars in Sonoma, producing nearly 3,000 cases of wine yearly. A success story that's bigger than her.
But it's not just the story of my father, it's the story of everybody that comes here looking for an opportunity.
Fuentes says she wants to be that safe space for hardworking immigrants, just like her father.
The center will move to its new location in July. Still ahead on CBS News Bay Area, no running water, peeling paint, and rust everywhere. Could Alcatraz really be turned back into a working prison?
I think this would be a terrible place to be. Like, it's crazy how small the cells are.
We take you on a tour inside Alcatraz to see what it would take to restore the rock for criminals. Plus, BART's expansion through the South Bay is pushing out a business that sells massive slabs of stone. They're running out of time.
It's impossible to move this in any sort of short time frame.
This is literally just a last-ditch effort to save my dad's livelihood.
Why the family says the move could crumble their business. And we'll introduce you to the UC Berkeley student who's using AI to protect people from health scares like the one that nearly took her father's life.
In the Bay Area, a new WNBA franchise is taking flight. Catch this first-in-a-lifetime inaugural season as the Golden State Valkyries play live on KPIX and Pix Plus.
Well, it's a lot cooler for us as we head into this afternoon compared to yesterday, at least. We're down into the low 80s today in some of our inland spots off into the East Bay, mostly upper 70s from the Santa Clara Valley up into wine country, though. Tomorrow, we dip down into the low 70s everywhere throughout those inland areas and then average back out with partly cloudy skies diving into this weekend into the 80s and 70s. The next chance of showers we'll see is next Monday, right around the corner for all of the Bay. Anywhere from San Francisco all the way off into the East Inland areas. We'll keep you updated on that. It's a little bit cooler for our friends along the Bay, too.
Well, the Bay Area has found itself in the national spotlight due to President Trump's plan to turn Alcatraz back into a prison again after more than 60 years. The Rock was once home to the worst of the worst, including mobster Al Capone and Robert the Birdman Stroud. The prison closed in 1963 because it was just too expensive to operate. It reopened as a tourist attraction 10 years later. So after all these decades, does restoring Alcatraz even make sense? Lauren Toms hopped onto a boat and checked out the condition of the former prison for herself.
Well, being here on Alcatraz Island, you're reminded of many of the reasons why it closed in the first place. Take a look at this building behind me. It's an old warden's house that burned down many years ago, but it's just one of the many buildings on Alcatraz that hasn't seen any updates since well before its closure in the 1960s.
It's not livable, that there's no way that human beings can actually be able to live in a place like this.
Ryan Ike is one of several tourists we spoke to who are shocked by President Trump's proposal to reopen Alcatraz Island as a functioning federal prison for violent offenders. It closed in 1963 because of its crumbling infrastructure and high maintenance costs.
There's no way it's livable. There's no way it's humane. And imagine what that would do to somebody's psyche. And imagine say they are they've done bad things or drugs or whatever, or they've murdered somebody or whatever, they're still a human being. They still need to be treated in a way where they can be rehabilitated.
Peeking inside the stalls, you're reminded of those conditions: peeling paint, flickering lights, rusted gates, and cells that only measure 9 feet long by 3 feet wide.
I think this would be a terrible place to be. It's crazy how small the cells are.
Even in 1963, the prison was behind the times. Historian John Martini says natural elements have caused its decay to speed up.
There's no running water. There's no heat. There's no sewage. Many of the cells have yet to be abated of hazmat stuff like lead paint. So these were all challenges that were present even when the prison was operating. They've just been exacerbated over the last 60 years.
Its closure was prompted not just by its poor living conditions, but because it was just too costly.
It's on a rock in the middle of San Francisco Bay. There's no fresh water. Everything from diesel fuel for the generators to potable water, it all had to come out by boat. And they had to have boats running constantly, carrying supplies, carrying staff and families back and forth. It was estimated that it cost 3 times as much to keep a convict on Alcatraz as a similar prison located on the mainland.
The infamous island prison is now a national park and a designated National Historic Landmark, but it's also a moneymaker, bringing in $60 million a year and supporting other businesses and jobs. Today, Ryan walks the island not as a garter inmate, but as a witness to a chapter of history he believes should stay closed.
I think that Alcatraz should stay as federal property and in the national park system so we can learn from our mistakes as a nation.
Well, there are other legal hurdles that should the plan move forward. Alcatraz is a designated National Historic Landmark. Its many species of birds are also protected by federal environmental laws. Well, the cause of yesterday's fire, the Valero refinery in Benicia, remains under investigation. We brought you live coverage yesterday as dark plumes of smoke poured out of the refinery. That was breaking news with Ann Makovic right here. The fire prompted a shelter-in-place order, including at a nearby elementary school. It burned for about 90 minutes before firefighters were able to put it out. Valero says no one was hurt. This latest incident comes just weeks after the refinery filed notice to the state saying it is considering closing by April. Well, the clock is ticking for a San Jose business owner who had to pack up and find a new location to make room for a future BART station. The Silicon Valley BART extension plan has been in the works for a quarter century, with construction finally underway on the second phase. This phase involves adding a 6-mile stretch with 4 new stations in San Jose and Santa Clara. The first of those new stations is right off 101 in San Jose's Little Portugal neighborhood. That is also the home of Silicon Valley Granite, which is losing its land through eminent domain. The owner has not left yet, but not because he's holding out. He told our John Ramos that relocating his merchandise presents some very unique challenges.
When most retail stores lose their lease and have to move, they can just back a couple of trucks up and load the inventory into it. But what happens when the items you sell can weigh thousands of pounds each? That's the dilemma facing one San Jose businessman. The items that retail businesses keep in stock are considered a hard asset, but street art Colorettis are harder than most.
They're all granite slabs, then granite monument, those are the monuments. I have that side is everything is tiles.
Welcome to Silicon Valley Granite, a 3-acre supermarket with 7,000 stone slabs, thousands of polished monuments, and about 500,000 tiles, imported from around the world over the last 30 years.
I moved to this country in 1998. I have been doing this all my life. That's my passion, that's my livelihood, that's what I do all my life. I don't know anything else.
The problem is the business sits in the middle of a block that has been taken through eminent domain by VTA to make room for the future Little Portugal BART station. The other tenants have already packed up and left, but for Coloretti, it's not that simple.
Each one of these slabs can be hundreds, if not like over 1,000 pounds. Moving it requires very special skill, specialized equipment. It's impossible to move this in any sort of short time frame.
The business was notified that it would have to move several years ago, but Coloretti's son said they tried to find another location that can handle the material without success. There have been several extensions, but now VTA has lost its patience, and last week a judge ordered the business to vacate. The deadline is Thursday morning, and anything left in the yard would be considered abandoned material and becomes the property of VTA. That would be millions of dollars worth of stone.
Right now, this is literally just a last-ditch effort to save my dad's livelihood.
Family and friends and extra work crews are moving material out as quickly as they can, but so far only about 5% has been relocated. Coloretti's daughter, Anisha, says with each item requiring a forklift to move, they never figured they could be the victim of retail theft. But that's how it feels to them now.
You don't think that someone can steal thousands of pounds of marble and granite and stuff. You would think it's impossible, but it feels like it's being all lifted. All his life savings, 401k, everything gone in 2 days.
The Colorettis are asking VTA to compensate them for the entire inventory, or at least give them a few months to move what they won't purchase. But at least for now, VTA says it's done talking, and they need to be out by Thursday. Coloretti says he never thought such a thing was possible when he moved to America.
I mean, they're stealing me. Whatever I made for a whole life, they're just stealing me overnight. I'll be left with zero. I'll be thrown on the street. It is totally injustice. It is, basically they're, it's like stealing somebody's money, somebody's life.
The Colorettis say they're not against the new BART station and they don't mind moving, but for them, it's not so easy. And they say convincing VTA of that has been like running into a stone wall.
Well, the business owner says he's looking for another location to downsize, but one consultant estimated that moving all the material could take 5 months and cost $1.5 million. We reached out to VTA. The agency did not want to go on camera. But they told us in part the business owner was given 2 separate deadlines with a 2-year notice and chose not to leave his property or file for relocation reimbursement. Still ahead, artificial intelligence being used more and more in the medical field. Look at how this emerging technology is being used to detect strokes.
Our goal is just to make sure you're okay, right? Because we know what it's like.
Hi, I'm Nana Nakase, head coach of the Golden State Valkyries. We are counting down to tip off on KPI X and Pix Plus. Let's go! Let's go!
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all dry days. It's not until next Monday where we get another chance of showers in the forecast for us. Models right now are starting to show an increased chance of showers as we head into next week, which it's not a bad idea. I mean, not a bad setup, I should say. What I'm getting at is we have a whole stretch of dry ahead of us. From now until this weekend, we're dealing with dry conditions, great opportunities to get out there and get some fresh air. Sunnier skies on the way for us, too, as we dive into this weekend's forecast. And then we'll get a quick splash of showers, which we need here in the Bay Area anyways. And that's going to arrive as we head into our Monday forecast with cooler weather around the corner, too. For now, we're in the 70s and 80s in our inland spots. We'll dip down to the 60s. And for our friends along the Bay, we're already off to a cooler start. 70s and 60s flirting with each other. We'll just dip down into the low 60s as we head into next week. As those cold fronts arrive from the north, we're going to see cloudier conditions, rainier skies, and of course, those cooler temperatures as early as Monday.
Well, a Bay Area startup is using AI to detect strokes. The American Stroke Association says strokes are the leading cause of disability in the U.S. and the fifth leading cause of death. According to the CDC, every year, more than 795,000 Americans suffer a stroke. Nearly a quarter of those are people who have already had a previous stroke. Early detection is critical to prevent long-term health effects. Kevin Coe looks at the technology being tested right now as the startup CEO hits the books at UC Berkeley.
For Ajmita Kumar, college has been about discovering the world and herself.
I'm very introverted. This isn't something, that comes naturally. This is the product of 2 years of really working at it and becoming, a representative of my vision and my idea.
That idea started with her dad, who told Kumar about her grandfather's history of strokes.
He couldn't walk, he couldn't talk, he couldn't even remember his own family members. So I grew up knowing that strokes were a very dangerous part of my family history. But in 2021, when half my dad's face started drooping, he didn't go to the hospital either.
Her dad was okay, but Kumar was shaken up. The health scare happened while she was studying electrical engineering and computer science at Berkeley. She wondered, how could she help her dad, living in Southern California, if he were to show symptoms of stroke again?
It occurred to us, we could use our skills as programmers to actually solve that problem.
That's how she and her friend Erica thought of and created Code Blue AI. Cameras and microphones would detect signs of stroke, calling 911 when needed. This shows how it would be used in a Zoom call with a doctor.
It can be used in telehealth conferencing, but yeah, the idea is that people who are very high risk for stroke should be able to access this through their suite of devices.
That means patients could add the technology on all their devices with a camera or microphone. Code Blue AI would analyze speech and facial images every 30 seconds, monitoring for slurring or drooping. Patients do opt in, but they could be opening up privacy concerns they never thought about. According to Brandy Noneke, the founding director of the Citrus Policy Lab based in UC Berkeley.
That can come up later where you didn't necessarily opt into the use of certain biometric data for certain purposes, but that's more of the extreme case. So I think it's great. As long as people are opting in and they know what data is being collected, stored, and how it's used, then it's all above board.
In response to data privacy concerns, Kumar says the data is deleted as soon as the analysis is done.
Our goal is not to be like, an Apple and a Google and collect your private health information. Our goal is just to make sure you're okay, right? Because we know what it's like.
Code Blue is being tested in a 20-patient study at UCSF. After more studies with more patients are complete, Kumar hopes it'll be ready by the summer of 2026.
Last month, Kumar and Code Blue represented UC Berkeley at the Atlantic Coast Conference InVenture Prize competition. Think of it like college sports, but instead for entrepreneurs. And while Code Blue did not take home the top prize, Kumar impressed the judges with her project. Coming up next half hour in CBS News Bay Area, violent criminals had a home on Alcatraz Island when it was a prison, but some families share the space as well. We introduce you to one woman who grew up there as a child. Plus, the goal is to protect Pacifica from coastal erosion, but is an expensive seawall really the best solution? We'll explore what some are calling an environmentally friendly alternative. Ryan Yamamoto, and this is The Minute. It is almost that time for the Golden State Valkyries to make their debut. The Bay Area's new WNBA team preparing for their first preseason opener ever tonight. They'll take on the Los Angeles Sparks at Chase Center. Tip-off's at 7. You watch it exclusively right here on Pix Plus. Well, we're just a day away from the deadline to get your real ID. Starting tomorrow, you'll need either that or a passport to fly within several Bay Area DMV offices have extended weekday hours and Saturday appointments for those applications. And the Warriors are taking on the Timberwolves in Minnesota tonight. This is game 1 in the series in the Western Conference semifinals. The Dubs are the 7th seed. The Timberwolves are the 6th seed. Tip-off is at 6:30 tonight. I'm Ryan Yamamoto, and this is The Minute.
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
Well, we have a lot cooler weather in the forecast for us today. We're back into the 60s in areas like San Francisco compared to yesterday's beautiful sunny skies and upper 70s. Speaking of upper 70s, that's the case over in Fremont. We have 80s off into the East Bay today, 60s along the coast, so a 20-degree spread this afternoon, just from all of our microclimates alone. I'm going to drop the map real fast and I want to show you a couple of things. We're actually going to start seeing a lot lighter winds. We had that this morning at least, but it is going to get gustier into the afternoon hours in some spots of the bay. For example, San Francisco getting up to around 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts just into the 3 o'clock hour. Another thing to mention, it's a mostly sunny day for all of our inland areas, but by tomorrow morning, those clouds that are still holding on tight to our coastline, they're going to start filling the bay with some mistier conditions as we head out the door tomorrow morning. We could potentially see that just along our shoreline, but it is still mostly a dry day nonetheless, and it will be dry as we head into the rest of this week. The next chance of showers, it's not until next Monday, and as we head into next Monday, temperatures will dip just a little bit more, and I want to show you that right now. We start off in our inland areas holding on tight to 70s and 80s back and forth with each other. We dip down to the 60s as we head into next week once that rain starts to roll in from offshore. Now at the same time, we head all the way over into the bay, places closer to San Francisco, Oakland, just across the Bay Bridge. Today we're seeing 70s and 60s back and forth, and that's pretty much the case all week long too. With partly cloudy skies for most this week, it'll be a great way to kick off the weekend by Friday, heading into sunnier conditions too. And then once we head into next week, when those showers start to roll in from offshore, that's when we'll dip down into the low 60s and potentially even some upper 50s along the coastline as well. We'll keep you updated on that forecast. For now, back to you.
Well, President Trump's goal of turning Alcatraz back into a prison continues to court criticism. Experts say reopening the prison could cost millions of dollars, and it would take a lot of work to bring the facility up to modern standards. Back in the day, the prison held some of the most notorious inmates like Al Capone, Machine Gun Kelly, and Whitey Bulger. But outside the prison walls live staff members and their families. Amanda Harry spoke to a woman who grew up there as a child.
Many people think of Alcatraz as just a prison, a frightening place used to punish the most dangerous criminals. But for Jolene Babiak, it was home.
You know, for kids, it was absolutely wonderful. There were about 75 children on the island.
Babiak's father worked as an administrator and later an associate warden. They lived on the island in the 50s, when she was just 7 to 9 years old, and then again when she was 15. It was separated into 2 sides. The side she was on was child-centered and community-oriented, with things like Halloween parties, dances, and bowling leagues.
It was very, very comfortable, low-crime neighborhood, I always like to say. The prisoners were focused on the opposite side of the island. The escapes were in that direction, and we lived in our area, and they never really came down and, tried to escape from that area.
She says when her father came home, he never shared stories about the dark side of his time working in the prison.
Usually the officers like to tell the funnier stories and not the grim, stabbings and such. We didn't hear about that too much.
But those things did happen. It was a maximum security, minimum privilege prison open to deal with the most hardened inmates in the federal prison system. It closed in 1963. Now it's a national park. More than 1 million people from all over the world visit each year. Valentina Ferrat was visiting with her family from Mexico.
We got to get in the cells and it was like shivery.
Would you want to live in a cell like that?
No.
Her brother Lucas says he wanted to learn about its history, a history he doesn't think should be repeated.
I would not prefer to open it because
I think it's not a good thing because I think the prisons that are here in the United States are very good, and we're good without that.
In her adulthood, Babiak has continued to learn about Alcatraz, interviewing prisoners and officers and writing a book. She doesn't believe it would be feasible to reopen it.
It would be very, very expensive. I mean, the island, the building itself was ancient 62 years ago. It's been closed, and it doesn't have the infrastructure, water and sewage being the biggest problem. I think we have much more sophisticated prisons now. I mean, you'd really have to come in and completely rebuild the prison.
Well, President Trump has not provided many more details or a timeline. Governor Newsom and San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie were quick to dismiss the idea.
This is not a serious proposal.
I don't know if he's watching The Rock or what inspired this. I mean, you can't even come up with a more colossally bad fiscal idea. Nothing about this makes any sense.
President Trump shared this post saying he wants Alcatraz to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. He said it would serve as a symbol of law, order, and justice. Environmentalists are trying to get the city of Pacifica to abandon plans to build an $80 million seawall. The idea is to prevent the beach from eroding. And our Karen St. Cyr met one activist who says there's a much greener way to get the same result with the same price.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Back in the 60s, they didn't take as good a care of the beaches as they do now.
Robert's been riding waves for nearly 60 years. The 81-year-old has hung up the board, but not his passion for the beach. And he says Sharp Park Beach in Pacifica isn't what it used to be.
A lot of it has gone away. All the beaches in California are starving for sand.
He estimates the shoreline is losing 1 to 2 feet of sand each year.
See, there's no beach up there.
Pacifica City Council recently approved plans to move forward with an $80 million seawall project.
When they build the walls like that, it makes the beach go away.
Coughlin argues there's a better way forward.
We want to expand the beach, and if we put a reef out here, that'll stop the sand from moving away so quickly.
Coughlin and 4 other environmental activists drafted a proposal asking the city to build an artificial reef near the northern side of the Pacifica Municipal Pier.
Right out here.
The reef would break up waves before they hit the seawall, keep sand in place, and even help kelp grow. Coughlin says the tourist economy would benefit too.
We want to expand the beach, and if we put a reef out here, that'll stop the sand from moving away so quickly.
The plan comes in at the same cost of the newly approved seawall project. One reef would cost at least $80 million, a figure that nearly doubles the city budget.
The city of Pacifica cannot fund it alone.
Sue Beckmeyer is the mayor of Pacifica. She says the city already relies on federal, state, city, and grants to manage the seawall project.
It really has to be everybody coming together. Federal grants that are available to us often look for a match, sometimes up to 35 or 50%. So we have to find the right combination where everybody has a part to play.
But Coughlin says time is of the essence.
See the pier going out.
The beach won't wait forever.
We need bold, dynamic action. That's what we're proposing, is bold, dynamic action.
An action aiming at restoring the beach while saving homes in the process.
Up next, we'll introduce you to a South Bay tattoo artist who celebrates his Japanese culture with permanent ink on living pieces of art.
A lot of emotions here because this really, all I can feel is like so much like gratitude and respect for like the amount of like trust they've given me.
In the Bay Area, a new WNBA franchise is taking flight. Catch this first-in-a-lifetime inaugural season as the Golden State Valkyries play live on KPIX and Pix Plus.
Well, it's a lot cooler for us as we head into this afternoon compared to yesterday, at least. We're down into the low 80s today in some of our inland spots off into the East Bay, mostly upper 70s from the Santa Clara Valley up into wine country, though. Tomorrow we dip down into the low 70s everywhere throughout those inland areas and then average back out with partly cloudy skies diving into this weekend into the 80s and 70s. The next chance of showers we'll see is next Monday, right around the corner for all of the Bay. Anywhere from San Francisco all the way off into the east inland areas. We'll keep you updated on that. It's a little bit cooler for our friends along the Bay too.
Well, painting your culture through ink, a needle, and living, breathing canvas, this fall photo exhibit featuring Japanese tattoo art is coming to San Francisco. And we're able to get a behind-the-scenes look at the photo shoot in the South Bay. We want to introduce you to Taki Kitamura, whose 27 years of work in San Jose stretches back more than 200 years to ancient Japan.
Holy good job, team. Good job, team. All right.
Dude, that looks great.
Oh, wow.
That's the reaction you get when you see your full body of work captured in a single moment.
I'm really proud of this.
Takahiro Kitamura beaming with pride during a photo shoot late last year to document 27 years.
All right, everyone turn around, please.
Turning his Japanese culture into living, breathing pieces of art.
A lot of emotions here because this really, all I can feel is like so much like gratitude and respect for like the amount of like trust they've given me.
That trust begins inside his tattoo studio in San Jose's Japantown.
I usually will only tattoo 2 to 3 people a day.
Where on this day, it was Sal Renaga's turn to endure the needle.
Not showing it, but feeling it.
Feeling the pain now to heal from the pain of his past.
I served from 2000 to 2004 in the United States Marine Corps, and I did most of my time in Iraq. Times were tough when getting back. It was hard to adjust to what we call it civilian life.
His tattoo journey, which began in 2012 from a single tattoo to now wearing a full body suit.
It's armor. It's my form of wearing my uniform, my suit, my armor suit, kind of, which perseverance, strength, and honor, and I wear it for all the people I served with.
It's healing.
It is healing.
A healing process meant to shield him from the realities of the world.
It's brought peace to my life.
A responsibility Kitamura takes to heart.
Sal, for example, has done military service, so the idea of a samurai was very important to him. I try to take into account their wishes and what they're trying to convey, and then mix in, things that I've learned from my culture.
That culture stretching back more than 200 years. The original Japanese woodblock prints created by one of the country's master artists, Yutagawa Kuniyoshi.
He was really known for warrior prints, including the Suikoden tattoo warriors. But yeah, he lived during the Edo period. I get a lot of joy in just tattooing Kuniyoshi prints on people. I think they're made to fit the body perfectly.
Perfection from ancient prints to now a major photo shoot.
If it wasn't for Japanese tattooing, I wouldn't know near as much about Japanese culture. And I think a lot of people too are using these tattoos as a way of their own journeys, So if I can be part of that, then that makes me happy.
And appreciation for those who serve as his canvas, allowing Kitamura to create a body of work capturing more than 200 years of his heritage.
Well, Taki Kitamura's photo exhibit called American Irozumi, translating to inserting ink in Japan, or in Japanese, it is scheduled for October 2nd at the San Francisco Main Library and will be on display for 6 months. And in honor of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, we are spotlighting a new leader making history as the first Asian American head coach in the WNBA, paving the way for greater representation in sports. That leader, of course, Natalie Nakase, now head coach of the Golden State Valkyries. She shared her journey of embracing her Asian American identity and what it means to break through barriers. Nakase's leadership is resonating not just in sports, but in the local community, where her impact is already being felt.
I think the fact that there isn't a ton of visibility as being an Asian American and head coach in professional sports, but so to me, it's just got to be your passion.
The old phrase of if they can see it, they can be it is really, really important. It gives young girls
and even coaches in the Bay Area something to look up to. And I think that awareness of the Valkyries being in town for the women's game is going to be tremendous.
Well, you can watch the full story airing tonight at 5 on the evening edition. And you can watch the Valkyries take on the Sparks tonight in the inaugural preseason matchup on Pix Plus. We also have live pregame and postgame show analysis starting at 6:30 p.m. We can find all of our stories for AAPI Heritage Month on KPIX.com. And be sure to watch our special Legacy and Leadership on Pix Plus. You can see it Thursday, May 22nd, 7:30 p.m. and May 24th at 7 p.m. Coming up, one of the biggest nights of fashion returns to the steps of the Met. A look at the outrageous outfits of the Met Gala.
This is Tiffany Hayes, and we're counting down the days to tip-off on KPIX and Pix Plus.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all dry days. It's not until next Monday where we get another chance of showers in the forecast for us. Models right now are starting to show an increased chance of showers as we head into next week, which it's not a bad idea. I mean, not a bad setup, I should say. What I'm getting at is we have a whole stretch of dry ahead of us. From now until this weekend, we're dealing with dry conditions, great opportunities to get out there and get some fresh air. Sunnier skies on the way for us, too, as we dive into this weekend's forecast. And then we'll get a quick splash of showers, which we need here in the Bay Area anyways. And that's going to arrive as we head into our Monday forecast with cooler weather around the corner, too. For now, we're in the 70s and 80s, and our inland spots will dip down to the 60s. And for our friends along the Bay, we're already off to a cooler start. 70s and 60s flirting with each other. We'll just dip down into the low 60s as we head into next week. As those cold fronts arrive from the north, we're going to see cloudier conditions, rainier skies, and of course, those cooler temperatures as early as Monday.
Well, it was fashion's biggest night in New York City. Celebrities took over the steps of the Met for the annual Met Gala. This year's theme is superfine tailoring black style. It highlights and pays homage to the evolution of black menswear. Actor Coleman Domingo was one of the co-hosts for this year's event. He wore a blue pleated cape with an embellished collar by Valentino. Oakland native Zendaya, look at that, also walked on the blue carpet. She was dressed by Louis Vuitton and wore a white three-piece suit along with a white floppy hat. Formula One driver Lewis Hamilton also co-hosted the event. He wore a white cream-colored suit with a matching beret by Wales Bonner. The Queen of Motown, Diana Ross, came in a vintage dress with an 18-foot-long feather train. It took 6 men to help her get to the top of the Met steps. And Rihanna revealed her 3rd pregnancy at the Met Gala. Rihanna wore this pinstripe Marc Jacobs outfit with a polka-dotted tie and oversized hat. Her husband, A$AP Rocky, was also a co-chair of the event. I know nothing about fashion. I wore a t-shirt today. Thanks for streaming CBS News Bay Area. I'm Ryan Yamamoto. We'll be right back with your First Alert forecast and a look at your top stories.